Hello and welcome to JudgeCast. This is episode 364. I'm one of your hosts, Bryan Perlman, and I'm joined this evening afternoon. Nope, we're going to do that again. Hello and welcome to Welcome to JudgeCast. This is episode 364. I'm one of your hosts, Bryan Perlman, and I am joined this evening, afternoon, morning drive to work by the one and only Charles Feather.
Crickets.
Oh. We can try this again. And the one and only Marcos Sanchez.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, whew. I thought for a second I was doing this all by myself.
Not quite. Almost,
Yep.
But not quite.
Yeah. So, Charles is not here. So now the inmates are running the asylum. That would be Marcos and myself.
Yeah, that adds up.
Yep. All right. And in this very special episode, we are not going to be covering content for judges.
Nope.
What? We're doing content for players?
Hi, players. Welcome.
Hello.
Grab a seat.
Yeah, pull up a chair. Sit a spell. All right. So what are we talking about for this episode? That we would invite players into our walled judge garden.
So, you got yourself a game loss. Here you are. Have a seat, son. We're going to talk to you all about the things that you can do to avoid getting in trouble, getting into accidental hissy fits because you didn't know this wasn't a thing you could do. We're going to talk to you all about the things that a player should know about playing at a competitive rules enforcement level event.
Maybe not all of them. Just a light dusting of a few of the heavy hitters, because as people know, judges, we can go into a lot of minutia detail about a lot of things. So in this episode, we're going to talk about things we want players to know from a regular rules enforcement level. There might be player-focused podcasts or YouTube videos, and they will have tips and tricks on, what snacks to bring and how much sleep to get the night before and that kind of stuff. We are going to be focused on some of the other aspects that might not necessarily be in those type of podcasts. We're coming at this from a judge perspective, things that we as judges want players to know to help them transition from F&M, casual commander night, Wednesday night drafts, to the world of RCQs and to the world of spotlight series and larger events.
Yeah, enough to keep you out of trouble is really what we're going at. We're not going to dive deep into everything. We're going to be very surface level because we want to give you just the bare minimum that hopefully you'll remember and that you can easily share with others to help them avoid problems as well.
Yes. So this is going to begin our 5-hour, 19-point series on what? No.
No.
Okay. So let's start out with the difference when we talk about competitive REL events. REL stands for Rules Enforcement Level, and there's 3 of them: regular, competitive, and professional. F&M, random drafts at your LGS, those are all run at regular. Okay. Events with more prizes, maybe qualifications to a higher level, are run at a higher rules enforcement level. Okay. So things that you might not even think about at F&M that are big deals become bigger deals because the level at which we enforce the rules is higher at the higher rules enforcement level. It's almost like it explains itself.
Yeah, it's the generic things of, at F&M, you got, I missed that trigger. Oh, whoopsies. Well, let's just do that trigger now, la, la, la. Not always going to be the case of competitive because we expect you to be doing better. We expect you to be paying more attention to the rules, and we expect the people who are better at playing the game to be the winners.
Yep.
So
we have a list of 12 items, and these are not presented in any sort of ranked order. So the only way to begin is by beginning.
Let's start with what you're bringing to the event. And you normally expect that, you're packing up your quick snacks, you're packing up your deck, you're packing up a couple of dice maybe. But the thing you might not be thinking about is your deck list. Deck lists are required and extremely important for competitive REL events. Mainly just to make sure that nobody has the opportunity to swap out a really key sideboard card that you might not have thought of before you got there that weekend and realize, oh man, everybody's playing Graveyard. Maybe I should have a Rest in Peace in my main deck or instead of my sideboard. Deck lists have to be submitted before the beginning of your event. And I cannot tell you how many times I will encounter at least one, if not multiple players who did not think to submit a deck list, are writing the deck list in the 3 minutes between when I start my opening announcements and when I say you have 50 minutes, you may begin, or are just like frantically scribbling as they get to the hall. Like it's a very common thing, but it's also something that you can really cut down on your stress levels for if you just think about it ahead of time, commit to it, write out something, and just be ready for it. A lot of times you can even do it digitally nowadays too. It's super easy.
Yep. And some larger events require the submission of the deck list the night before. So if you do have an online submission, know what time it's required to be submitted by, and then get it in. Don't wait until the last minute, or you're gonna find that you have a bad time. Like especially at the LGS level, people go, I'll just write the list when I get there, and then you run into traffic, or your travel partner decides that they want to stop at McDonald's for breakfast and the drive-through takes a lot longer than expected. A lot of little things can come up. And if you do not have your deck list to turn in at the time you're supposed to, that is a penalty of a game loss.
Yeah, it is tardiness, because the whole point of the tardiness penalty is that you need to be ready when we start the clock to sit down and be playing your game. If you haven't gone through the required component of giving us what your deck list is, you're not ready to play because we don't know what you're supposed to be playing. So that is a tardiness, and that is a game loss. Not a great way to start your day.
Yeah. And you can't change your deck list after you turn it in.
Nope, no continuous construction. They just held like some the limited championship qualifiers at this last weekend at SCG CON. It's now a thing they do every Sunday. A lot of people will think, hey, it's limited, just like my pre-release. I can switch up my deck halfway through the day if I want to. Nope, you're doing a very deliberate and very extensive deck list registration and verification. You are writing out exactly what you're playing at the beginning of each round, period.
Yep. And, printing the sheet of paper off of your Moxfield list, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Marcos, I got a question for you. Where does a general keep their armies?
Ooh, where?
In their sleeveys.
How dare you?
Yes. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about are sleeves. Okay. Speaking of bad joke. Okay. I know.
Oh, he's going to continue.
Yep. This weekend, or this, it's been pretty cold in a lot of parts of the U.S. And in one of our work meetings today, someone was complaining about how cold it was up in New York, and how much snow they had and stuff. And I was like, oh, well, if you're, and how hard the heater in his house was working. And I was like, well, if you get cold, you could just go stand in the corner. And the guy's like, why? And I was like, because it's 90 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so sleeves. Sleeves are, you probably don't think about sleeves too much. You bought them like 6 months ago. You play them at your LGS, and you've been playing this deck, and now you're going to take it to a big event. Or maybe you've built a modern deck and you play it, and you've had these sleeves for 2 years kind of thing. You are, as a player, you are required, if you are playing sleeves, which you probably are, they need to be indistinguishable from the other sleeves in the deck. Like, you can't have any marks or dings or anything like that on the sleeves, so that you might be able to tell one card from the next.
Yep. That also includes little things, and I can't believe I have to say this, but this did come up once. They all have to be the same color, and not just like the same exact shade of black, because that happens sometimes if you're mixing and matching different manufacturers of sleeves, or different print runs. You might have one black sleeve that's a little lighter than another one. No. I'm talking about like not running yellow, pink, blue, and orange sleeves in one deck. This is something I've seen before, and it was a fun conversation to have. That's for sure. But
Yep. So another important thing about sleeves is there are double face cards, and lighter colored sleeves have a tendency where you can see the face, or at least the outline of a face, or you can tell like the type of bar. You can see that bar across the back of the sleeves in like yellow, white, pink sleeves, light blues. You can often tell. Maybe if you've got lighter sleeves, you can look and you can see like the white dot for the white symbol on the back of a Magic card. Like maybe you can see that, and then if it's a double face card, you don't have that little dot. So that is also a form of marked cards. Like if you can tell what card you are going to draw from looking at the back, that is marked. And what'll happen is there are penalties associated with this, such that if there is a pattern, so like if all of your lands are dinged, that gets, and we do not think that you're cheating, we think it is an honest mistake, that is still also a game loss. Now, one thing that you can help do to protect yourself is when you get packs of sleeves, shuffle them together. Like if you get 2 packs of 50, or like 2 pack 40 or something like that, those 2 sides of the pack actually come off the manufacturer lines potentially at different times. So they might be slightly different size. And I've had events that when I'm doing deck checks and I've sorted everything, I will find that the lands and the sideboard cards are in slightly shorter sleeves than other cards in the other 40 cards of the deck, or 50 cards of the deck, because what the person did was they just opened one side up, sleeved 50, then pulled out the other 50 and started sleeving up. And because the 2 sides were slightly different, they ended up with marked cards.
yeah, sleeves are really important. It's one of those things that, again, you don't think about too much. Like, heck, for example, I have this like little box of just a pack of sleeves, including sleeved lands. That's just like my draft box. Like, I'll take this deck box with me to any draft or pre-release or whatever it is and use that for my sleeves. I've used those sleeves for probably going on 6 or 7 years, because I only use them for like the rare times I'm going out to draft or the pre-releases I attend. And boy, those sleeves get worn out real fast. And like, I guarantee you there's nail marks over them. There's plenty of things that would make them marked. If I tried to run those at a competitive event, would not go well for me. Yeah. Even brand new sleeves can also be problematic, more so in just that, like, they might be so new that they're literally falling all over themselves. And now you have like the top card of your library just falling off. Or what else can happen is that over time, your sleeves tend to get a little stickier. Like maybe they don't shuffle as smoothly as they once did, because it just gets a little grimy from over the years of handling it and handing it to your opponent, who's also shuffling and handling it. And you might get cards that now stick together. When you try and draw one card, oh, now I drew 2 cards, and now you have to call a judge. So making sure your sleeves are in good condition can only help you.
One other thing about sleeves that'll help keep you out of trouble is you are shuffling your main deck sleeves a lot more than your sideboard sleeves. Oh, yeah. Main deck sleeves might get worn a little faster. They might get that wavy, pattern at the top. But your sideboard sleeves are staying nice and pristine. And then when you take some cards out of your main deck and replace them with your sideboard cards, you've got 57 cards with this little wavy pattern, and then 3 cards with a nice crisp edge. Okay, that's also problematic. That will also get you an investigation as well. So just
get the head judge's attention at that point.
Yep, keep that in mind, and keep your sleeves clean and straight and nice and pristine and perfect. All right, what's next?
Well, next up is, we kind of already alluded to this, but I want to dive a little bit more into the specifics of it. And a lot of people live by a motto, I do very much, that like if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. Because tardiness at a competitive level event is very much a thing. Now I get it, at your local game store for an FNM or a pre-release, there's maybe that one player that often will be like 10 minutes behind. Maybe they work pretty far away, but always want to make it. So the store owner and everybody else is kind of okay with holding everything up by 10 minutes or so. That's not the case at a competitive event. At a competitive event, you have a lot of factors that are outside of your control. The one thing that we ask of you is to just be there on time, in your seat, ready to play.
Well, you say the one thing we ask. We've got a list of 12 things.
No,
So
you're right. You're right.
One of 12 things we ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
The it's such an important aspect though, because this makes the rest of your day just run so much more smoothly. This also ties in with a question that I'm sure Bryan gets asked a lot, but I get asked a lot too on the floor, which is, hey, like halfway through the round, maybe near like with 15 minutes, 20 minutes left on the round timer, a player will come up to you and they'll ask you, hey Judge, how much time is left in the round? And I'll be like, oh, about 15 minutes or so. They're like, oh, okay, do I have time to go get food? I'm like, I cannot guarantee that, because you have to manage your time exceedingly well at one of these events, because we can't guarantee when the round is going to turn over. When the round ends, everybody might be done. They might have reported their results and we can get right into the next round. So yeah, that 15 minutes might not be enough time for you to go get food and eat it. But sometimes we'll have a long time extension because we gave a deck check and they needed an extra 10 minutes because we had their decks for a little while. And so maybe that 15 minutes is actually 25 minutes or 30 minutes. Or what even happened this weekend at my event that I was head judging, we finished a round in 45 minutes. So we just went, we're not going to keep everybody waiting for an extra 5 minutes who's here and ready to play. So we started that next round early. So it's really hard for us to say exactly how long you have to get a thing done. If it's like a quick restroom break, oh, I need to go outside for a smoke. Yeah, you probably have the time you need if you have 10 to 15 minutes or so. But I do want to point out, you need to know when the round is scheduled to end. That is going to be on you. The head judge will always announce it when they tell you how much time you have left in the round. That is based off of the posted and announced end of round time. So when we start that round and say you have 50 minutes, you may begin. At that point, if it's 1 o'clock, the round ends at 1:50, meaning we are not going to penalize you for being tardy if you're back ready to play by 1:50. Even in those scenarios that I just mentioned where we might have actually started the next round by 1:45. Because I'm going to have heart and I'm going to recognize, hey, we started early. I posted the round end time as 1:50, so you're not going to be tardy unless you're back by 1:51, 1:55, 2:30. What happened there, you know?
Right. If we tell you that the round is going to end at 1:50, it is not reasonable for us to expect you to be back if we need to start the round. Now, again, that's super rare. And I want to stress why tardiness is a thing, and it's so different from your LGS. That is because competitive REL events tend to be longer. They tend to have more prizes. So little tiny delays turn into big delays. They add up over the course of the day. And at an LGS, you might be, it might be like a 3-round event, and you can eat 1 or 2 people being tardy. At larger events like an SCG CON, there's a lot of distractions. There's artists, there's vendors, there's lines for food. And what we need to do is we need to keep the event going, and we have to be kind of harsh, because what if someone's like, oh, my round's starting, but I'm almost to the front of the line to talk to the artist. I'll just be 5 to 10 minutes late and take my warning. Okay, those are the types of decisions that, players being players, they're going to think about they're going to have those thoughts. And we can't afford a bunch of people having those thoughts. So we need to be more aggressive with tardiness penalties than FNM might allow, because we're dealing with longer events, we're dealing with more people, we're dealing with more distractions.
Yeah, and to kind of put that into context, think about your average event at your local game store. Bryan mentioned it perfectly. More often than not, they're going to be 3-rounders. You have your 3 rounds for FNM and you're good. Now, some stores might run a little bit more, but per the MTR, per our documents that tell us how many rounds we need to run based off of the number of players we have, as soon as we have 17 players, we're playing 5 rounds at competitive, and doing a top 8. So that's another 3 rounds. You're talking 8 rounds total just because we have a 17th player on top of the 16. As soon as you get over 33, you're going to 6 with the top 8. And when you think of some of these bigger events, like a spotlight series, anything like that, we're talking 9 rounds on day 1, 5 or 6 rounds on day 2. And all of this matters because, especially the larger scale of the players that are there, if just one person every round, or like let's say like 2% of your total number of players says, oh, it's okay for me to be 5 to 10 minutes late because I'm in line to get a signature with an artist or whatever. That's a huge number when you look at it from that macro perspective of like the main event this weekend had, over about 1,000 players. That's huge. So we have to be pretty strict about it, because if we're not, it makes a day obscenely longer, which realistically nobody wants. You don't want it. We don't want it. The TO certainly doesn't want to have to stay open until 1 a.m. to accommodate people just taking their time getting back to the event. So
the next thing to talk about is slow play. And this is something to be aware of. Not just that you might be doing slow play, but your opponent might be slow playing. Okay. And what slow playing means is just you're taking, or your opponent is taking a disproportionate or an inordinate amount of time to make decisions. Okay. They're not advancing the game at a reasonable pace. All right. This is subjective. Okay, there is no such thing as, well, it took them 12.5 seconds to play their island, therefore it's slow play. Okay. You are responsible for playing at a reasonable pace. Your opponent is responsible for playing at a reasonable pace. If you do not feel that is happening, you can call a judge and have them watch. Okay, if you feel uncomfortable saying, hey, my opponent is slow, then you can ask the judge, hey, can I ask you a question away from the table? Take your hand with you, pretend to be showing them a card, and be like, hey, can you watch the table for slow play? The judge, if able. Now, I'm going to give you because we said that slow play is subjective, I'm just going to point out that when you are waiting for your opponent to do something, it seems like an eternity. When you are trying to figure out if you can do something, time seems to go by very quickly. Okay?
Yeah.
It is not if a judge is giving you slow play or assessing slow play, they are not calling you stupid. They are not calling you slow. Okay? You are more likely than not just not aware, or your perception of how time is passing does not match everybody else's perception of how time is passing.
Yeah, relativity in time is very much a thing, especially when it's you in the tank versus you just sitting idly by waiting for something.
Right. Now, one thing that we want to point out is but this is a really important turn. That reasoning does not entitle you to more time to think. Okay,
no.
And this is kind of a hard thing to get to sometimes get your head around, because maybe this is the last turn of the game. Maybe if you don't win on this turn, your opponent's going to win. So you feel like you should be able to have as much time as necessary. Okay, but both players paid for a 50-minute round. We want to make sure that both players are able to play, and complex board states very rarely just spring out of thin air. They just pop from Zeus's head like Athena. Like, it just doesn't happen. All right, they evolve over a series of turns. What?
Wow, what a reference!
I am that old. It was a contemporary reference. That was like my generation's equivalent of 6'7". No. Right.
You have a good point, though. Like, ultimately, you don't get to complex board states that quickly unless something really drastic happens. In which case, if there is a judge sitting there watching for slow play, we'll usually take that into account. Like, if it's just you drew a card and you had 2 other cards, 2 of them being lands in your hand, we get you might want to bluff. We get you might want to, labor over your next decision exactly. But you've been building towards this for the whole game. There's not that many decision points here. you just kind of have to do the thing because there's only so much time that we're going to let you just sit there doing nothing, taking time away from your opponent.
And the fact that you might be in turns, and we'll talk about end of round in just in a little bit, but
Yep.
the fact that you are in turns does not mean, oh, well, now I'm not using the clock anymore. I can take as much time as I want. The fact that the clock is running or not running, we still need you to play at a reasonable pace. Okay.
Yep. We expect it
but-
to be done by now.
Right. And it's not a slight on you if you get it. It is not a dig on your opponent if you ask to watch for slow play. There are players that might try and weaponize slow play, or just they woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and so they want to try and pressure you because they want to hurry up and they're down a game, so they want to hurry up and finish this, get on to the next game so that they might actually be able to win, that kind of thing. So if you're concerned about that, again, talk to Judge. All right.
Yep. And one last thing on that before we move on to the next thing. Intentionally slow playing is not a thing. That's just called stalling, and that's a disqualification. Do not do it.
In some games, that might be considered a strategy. In football, trying to run out the clock is a strategy. In Magic, deliberately trying to run out the clock is cheats.
Yep. Next up, I kind of already touched on this when I was mentioning the, do I have time to go eat question? But something that some players might not know, especially like I've noticed some players who have played other games and come over to Magic the Gathering are a little confused when they're like, hey, Judge, when's the lunch break? And we're like, what lunch break? We don't have a break. We don't have a lunch break. We don't have a smoke break. We don't have a snack break.
This train's got no breaks
until we're done. We're rolling. This train's a rolling all night long until we're done. There are no official breaks. So to that end, if you want to eat, be prepared to either finish your match quickly so that you have time to go somewhere close by to get your food, or bring snacks with you. Like I know plenty of pro players who like have a bag of trail mix that they just consistently keep in their bag and just like snack on throughout the day because they know they don't have the opportunity to go wait in line for 20 minutes, sit down and eat in between rounds. It's unfortunate. Sometimes these days can get pretty long, and people will certainly get pretty hangry and unfocused, but that's another thing that you kind of have to be prepared for. There are no specific breaks for you to grab a food. One of the best things you can do actually is have a buddy who just is around as your support buddy for the day, who will go grab food for themselves and for you, and just have it waiting for you when you finish your match.
It's always good to have a friend that goes O2 drop.
Yeah, exactly. They become
friend.
the group. Bring a friend, or just bring a group of friends, because inevitably one of you will finish earlier, and first one to finish is the one who's going to grab Subway or whatever it is.
Right. Otherwise, lunch breaks are for closers. You want to eat, close.
Yep.
Now, this doesn't apply to bathroom.
No, you can absolutely have a bathroom break.
Yeah,
if
you want to pee, close. No.
No, but also raise your hand and call for a judge and just be like, hey, I need to run to the restroom, and then go off. Judge will usually stand there with your stuff to make sure nothing happens to it, and they'll be around long enough to be able to make sure you get a proper time extension for when you get back. Pro tip though, do not take more than 10 minutes, because in our policy documents, if you go more than 10 minutes, you're basically saying, I'm done with this match, I'm done with this event, I'm gone. Yeah. That's just the line we have. If you feel like you might take more than 10 minutes for, whatever reason, maybe what your buddy and your friend group got you for lunch is not agreeing with you, make that known to the judge ahead of time so that they can at least expect that and talk to the head judge about it and make sure you don't have a problem.
I would think that you still would have a problem. Like if you're needing to be gone longer than 10 minutes to handle bathroom issues, probably need to take the L and take care of that instead of playing the next round. But
take care of yourself first, realistically.
Few things. Check with a judge I realize that it might seem silly and kind of childish to ask for permission to go to the bathroom. You're not exactly asking for permission to go to the bathroom. Instead, what you're doing is judge, if someone comes to this seat and I am not here, please do not give me a tardiness penalty like we mentioned just a little bit ago. And I need to go now so you can start the time extension and you can you can time how long I pee and then come back. Also,
Yeah.
please note that if you come back really super fast, because we are timing you, we do have a general idea if you had enough time to wash your hands. So, we
Yep.
will judge you.
A little bit.
Yeah, but the best time to go to the bathroom is before the round. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the best time. I understand that people might be going, you might be chatting and talking to people, but waiting until the round starts and then ask to go to the bathrooms, a little bit obnoxious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, we're almost never going to say no, but like,
We're never gonna say no.
yeah. I say almost never because there might be some reason
Yeah.
that somebody can imagine, but
Well,
realistically, we're not
actually,
telling you no.
There's a case where you're not asking for permission, you're letting us know is
Yes.
the vast majority of the cases. Okay. Now, we've mentioned a few times penalties, game losses, stuff like that. We want to talk about what a penalty is. Most penalties are things called warnings, which is basically just a finger wag that we write down. All right.
Yep.
It does not go on your permanent record. We do not file it away and bring them out at every event, like some sort of police dossier on you. All right. We record the warnings, and they're meant to be a little unpleasant. Okay, just a little unpleasant, just a tiny little no. So to encourage you to whatever it is that you did to get the warning you don't want to do it again because it was minorly unpleasant. It was not so great. Warrant penalties can be upgraded. So if you continually make the same mistake over and over again, hey, play more careful, we need you to not do that. It's and a lot of times it's 3 strikes, you're out. General.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Some
didn't
it's
get it
two,
the first
but
time, it didn't stick the second time, the third time. Here's an upgrade to a game loss. Okay, it very rarely comes to that. Normally, it's once, maybe twice, that kind of
and
thing. Yes.
realistically, nowadays, the number of things that you can do in a game of Magic that will just automatically give you a game loss are significantly fewer than it ever has been in the history of Magic. If you played competitively 10, 15 years ago and you come back, you will be shocked at how fewer game losses you collect for doing the same mistakes in a game. It's not a thing that happens very often, but then again, whenever it does, it's for a good reason. It's because we really want to mitigate any advantage that could have come from somebody doing something serious. Like, hey, you didn't register your deck list? Great, now there's a chance you could have just switched up your entire deck or your sideboard or whatever to make sure that you have the best chance at beating your opponent in this game. So when we find that, yeah, we're going to give you a game loss. We're going to make sure your deck is correct, and then you're going to start a new game with a correct deck, period.
The fixes, so we have penalties, a lot of them come with warnings, most of them come with warnings, and then there is a fix. Now the fix is something that we have a document called the Magic Infraction Procedure Guide that tells us how to fix things. Okay, and we are supposed to go by and follow the document, and these fixes are meant to try and mitigate advantages. Now, sometimes the players have just messed things up so bad that whether we leave it as it is or we try and go back and fix it, information's been revealed. Someone's going to gain an advantage. Okay, and sometimes that just can't be avoided. There is a penalty called failure to maintain game state, and this is one that newer players might be the most surprised by, because whereas if you get a penalty for hidden card error or game rule violation, you did something. For failure to maintain game state is your opponent did something and you didn't catch it. Okay, and
Yep,
that can
you
feel
let them.
right. That can feel super unfair because you're going, well, hold on, I didn't make the mistake. My opponent did. Why am I getting a penalty? Now, there's a few things about this. Failure to maintain game state is a yes. I realize that it doesn't necessarily feel fair. However, nearly every penalty or infraction, anything that can go wrong in a game of Magic, can be observed by both players. Tapping and casting a spell for the wrong mana, attacking with a creature the turn it came out when it doesn't have haste, drawing 3 cards when you're supposed to only draw 2. Like these are things that the opponent can notice, that can see, they can see. So what we need to do is we need to encourage you to look and watch and pay attention to your game and not just emotionally check out, because having you watch the game and watch what your opponent's doing means you can catch problems sooner, before little problems before they have an opportunity to become big problems. So there is a penalty that basically says, "Hey, you need to watch." It does not get upgraded. Okay, this is a special one. Like you're. It's not like, oh well, my opponents can just screw up 3 times over the course of the event and I get a game loss. That doesn't happen. That's specifically not allowed. Okay, but the big thing: penalties, warnings, not scary. Uh, are supposed to be a little obnoxious, and you're not supposed to want them, but they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be scary. It's like, yeah,
From there, another thing that comes up a lot, and especially if you're coming from the pre-release crowd or the local commander night at your LGS, where everybody's there to have a good time, right? You're sitting down playing commander with your friends. They might point out, "Oh, wait, you shouldn't do that. That won't do as much as if you hold it for later." Or if you're at pre-release and your opponent goes, "Oh yeah, you can absolutely take that back. No big deal. It's pre-release. We're having fun. It's all good." At a competitive event, your opponent does not have your best interests at heart. It feels weird sometimes, but at this point, it's a zero-sum game. They are trying to win so that they can collect their share of the prizes, and you're standing in their way. They have to beat you to be able to progress.
so there. You are nothing more than a speed bump on their road to that
To
invite to
victory.
Cincinnati. Yeah.
Exactly. So, at that point, they might treat you like a speed bump sometimes. Some people are way worse about this than others. Some players get particularly salty. Some players I know will even use it as a competitive advantage, that they get a little salty and very serious and very businesslike, I guess is the best way to call it. And, that's kind of a major mentality shift for some players who are just getting into competitive.
Or they might not represent the rules correctly, or they might play quickly and hope to confuse you, or they might not
They might
announce
angle shoot a little
things
bit.
to be clear. Yeah, so the big thing here is if something feels off or you have a question, ask. Okay,
Always.
right. Raise your hand, call for a judge. It's just realize that, hey, something or I think my opponent was doing something shady. The worst thing that we want to hear as judges is in round 7, a player comes up and you're like, hey, so something's been bothering me. In round 4, I had an opponent, and you're like, oh, this is 3 hours ago. Like
Yeah.
we want to fix things. We can't do anything. No, I'm not saying don't come up and tell us. Okay,
Right.
what I do want to express is if you tell us in round 4, we might be able to act on the information you're providing. Whereas if you tell us in round 7, our ability to do something has gone way down. So if something feels off, if something feels wrong, if you think your opponent might be, you know, maybe when they're drawing, they're looking at the card, or maybe they're shuffling funny or something like that, you know, don't hesitate to get us involved. And even if it's nothing, okay, and you don't want to be that person, you kind of do, because if this player is maybe they're being salty and they're making you feel uncomfortable, if we can stop that person, then that's protecting their next opponent, n number of opponents. Okay, so you are it's not that you're being that guy, you're being that person, you're being a squealer or a tattler or anything like that. You are helping us protect the event.
Exactly.
Okay.
And ultimately, if I would much rather have a discreet discussion with you away from the table. And to Brian's point from earlier, if you're uncomfortable pointing out these things in front of your opponent because you think it might lead to more hostility, more harshness, more saltiness, whatever, you always have the ability to ask a judge a question away from the table. We will step out of earshot of your opponent, and you can quietly tell us, hey, I've noticed that when they're shuffling, it looks like they might be looking down at the deck or trying to move stuff around. This isn't like a court of law where you're, standing, like serving them a subpoena and saying, you are being served and you have to show up for this because I think you did this horrible thing. No, we're just need to know what's going on so that we can help you. And sometimes it turns into nothing. Sometimes that's how we catch cheaters. So it's always helpful. It's always beneficial for you, especially, to just ask a judge. We're there to help. We want to help you. And it can be something as simple as just like, hey, can you watch for slow play? Can you, does this mechanic actually work this way? Because I thought it worked differently. Oh, my opponent's saying it works this way on Moto or on Arena, and I don't feel like it does. Well, we'll gladly clear that up for you. No problem.
So the next thing is this is kind of the sentence I wrote down kind of makes me laugh is it's kind of easy to accidentally bribe people. Um,
Yeah, it
yeah,
really is.
yeah. And bribing is bad. Oh, okay, bribing is bad.
Thank you. If you didn't, I
Um,
was gonna.
yeah, bribing is bad. Okay. Um, so at your LGS, you might be tempted to say something like, let's say, the pre-release. You're looking at the pre-release, and they give a pack per win, and you say something along the lines of hey. The match is looking like it's going to draw, and you say, "Hey, if you give me X, I'll let you win," or if you let me win, I'll do X for you. Okay, that is a bribe. Okay, and at these events where it's like, hey, uh, if you make it into the top 8, you get some money. So I say, hey, if you give me half your winnings, I'll scoot to you, or something along those lines. It's very, very easy to accidentally bribe folks. Now, at a RCQ, okay, the rules for bribery actually change in the last round. So you can see people, and this is one of the things that's kind of difficult and kind of complicated to maybe get your head around, is the rules are different in the finals than it is in every other round. So things you might have seen someone make an offer, and then you try and make the same offer to your opponent in a different event, and that's bad and that's illegal. Okay, but the other person did it and it was fine. Why? Because it was in a different part of the tournament. So here's what I would suggest: if you have a question about what you can offer your opponent or how you can do prize splits, there's ask the judge before you ask your opponent, and ask the judge out of earshot of the opponent. Okay?
Yep.
And that's important because I can't use we don't want players who are savvy to use, well, I'm asking the judge if I can bribe my opponent within earshot of my opponent who just heard that I'm interested in bribing them. That's kind of a roundabout way of making an offer, or people who are savvy might be able to do that kind of thing. And we're for you players, we're onto you.
Yeah. And one thing to keep in mind when that goes hand in hand with this, came up this weekend for me. So I was the head judge for the Super Sunday Series tournaments that SCG CON runs at their events. And the Super Sunday Series are a really cool way to get an invite to a regional championship down the line. The thing is, they're locked in at 6 round events, and you go 6-0, you get a good chunk of money and an invite. You get 5-0 or 5-1, smaller chunk of money and an invite. But one of the things that came up was that people thought, well, it's the last round, so I can start, trying to say, hey, how do we want to switch things up here? Do you care about the invite? all that kind of stuff. And I had to tell multiple people, hey, this is not the final round of a single elimination portion of a tournament. This does not apply. If you say these things, you are committing bribery, and I cannot help you legally bribe your opponent. There is no set of magic words. I know in the past, some players have been kind of coached by judges in what you should not say. And I think there's some validity to that kind of stuff. But realistically, it should just, unless you're in that specific exception, the answer should always be, do you want to play this match? Great. Would you, or don't? Would you like to concede to me? Okay. And then move on from there. And then just play your game.
All right. So if you are interested in this, because I know that whenever this comes up, there's always a lot of talk in the community about the bribery rules are stupid, or oh, I can't believe they're so restrictive, or I don't understand them. We have a significant episode that was recorded about 2 years ago, JudgeCast episode 317. A Bribe Called Quest is the name of the episode, where we wax poetic about bribery, and the rules for bribery right now are the same they were in 2024, so it is still 100% up to date. Now, something else that might be kind of okay at your LGS, well, first off, it's not okay at your LGS, but you might think it is. That's not okay at competitive REL events is if it's looking like the match is going to end in a draw, you say, okay, well, we can roll for it. Okay?
Bad.
That's not good either. Okay, it's a penalty. It's improperly determining a winner. But we want games of Magic to determine the winners of games of Magic. We do not want rolling dice. We don't want flipping over top cards and highest converted mana cost wins. We do not want you to arm wrestle, have a staring contest, anything like that to determine who's actually going to win other than the winner of the game. Now you can reveal your hands and talk about who would have won in 2 or 3 turns. Okay.
Yeah, but not your library specifically.
Right. But not your library.
It's only info you have access to at the moment.
Right. And so I had at a pre-release, at the Lorwyn pre-release, I was playing the 4th round, and my opponent I got paired down. And my opponent's not even playing in sleeves. And I'm talking to them, and I was not the judge for this event. And they were just like, yeah, I got the win last round. We went to time, and we just rolled for it. And I was like, yeah, guy, you can't do that. And he's like, oh, no, it was fine. And I was like, no, guy, it's an actual problem. He's like,
not.
It's an actual problem. He's like, yeah, but it's a pack for a win, and no one was going to get the pack. And I was like, yeah, I understand, but you definitely can't do it. You know, no, you just got to concede if you're a good guy or not. And he was like, no, well, I wanted, if I conceded, then I wouldn't have gotten the chance of having the pack. It's like, oh.
People will do for a pack.
I understand, but we can't have those kind of things in Magic. And again, the bribery episode will explain why in more details.
Yeah.
Okay.
We said it before. We want people to win at playing Magic by being the better Magic player, not by rolling a die or whatever. So, anyways, moving on from there, next point that we're going to talk about is actually technology-based. So you should have some familiarity with whatever technology is going to be used at the tournament you're going to be playing in. So, for example, your local RCQs will likely use Companion. And you can use a Companion app on your phone. They'll use the tournament software called Event Link that the scorekeeper or the store owner will use on their computer. And that's how they'll run your event. At some of these larger events, for example, if you go to the Spotlight Series, an open tournament, that is on a different piece of software called Melee. And Melee has no app at the moment. It is a browser-based platform. It doesn't send you notifications or anything, so you have to be conscious about how to navigate Melee's interface, where to find the information you need. Where do you find your seedings? Oh, I have to click on the seedings tab. Seems intuitive when you know that tab is there, but if you don't know it's there, suddenly you can't find where to sit.
It's intuitive with the proper amount of training.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So And that's honestly kind of how it is with a lot of tournament software. I know that other tournament software are being developed. Different games use different tournament software. There's things like Cardi.io. There's Spice Rack. There's so many different pieces of tournament software out there that each one will have its own quirks, its own specific things. They might have a player app. They might have a judge app. They might have something else that you have to work around. Just get an idea of what you need to do and get a little bit familiar with it throughout the day, because that's how you're going to be reporting your results to the match. And to that end, that means your phone should be charged for the entirety of the time you plan on playing. And I know that can be tough, so bring a battery pack with you, bring a charger. Don't ask, hey, where can I plug into the wall? Because there's going to be 18 other people all sitting around that one outlet trying to get a charge.
Oh, maybe this is the 13th thing we want to teach. If the question is, do you have a place I can charge in my phone? The answer is no.
Nope. Hard no.
Especially at the larger events.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's often and some events, okay, like SCG CON, and I'll use that as an example, they run their regular events out of Companion and their comp rel events out of Melee for Magic. So what that means is, depending on which event you're in, you might be using a different app to get your pairings. Okay, and this is less of a comp rel thing and more of just an app thing. You need to be aware of what app is being used for your event.
Yeah, especially because it might be a little tricky to you because you registered for this two-headed giant event on Melee, because that's how they take in all their registrations. But when it gets to actually pairing the round and wondering where your table number's at, it's not going to show up in Melee. It's going to show up in Companion.
Yeah. All right. Next up is we're judges, and they're like how to talk to us and how to treat us. We're not scary, promise. We're there to be helpful. When we come up to a table, it is a customer service role. We are coming up to find out what the problem is and then help fix that problem. Okay. And that problem might be, I need to go to the bathroom. All right, go into the bathroom. I'll watch your stuff. I'll time you. Let's see how fast I'll time you. Let's see how fast you can pee. Right. No, or it could be, hey, we messed up the game, or it could be, hey, my opponent's got really warped sleeves, and I can, tell the top card of their library is a basic land because all of their foil basics are really warped. Like, we are there to solve problems. We are not there to punish. Now, sometimes there may be a penalty, okay, associated with that, but judges at no point in time do we give, like we're giving a gift, a penalty. Like, yes, we are trying to give you penalties. We're trying to give you warnings. We're trying to ruin your day. It's just we are recognizing what the problems are. We are applying the fixes as outlined in the guide, and we are trying to make things better than they were when we approached.
Right. And in fact, some judges will really lament having to maintain such strict stuff, because like, I know whenever I have to give somebody a game loss or something, and it's a thing where it's like, this could have been easily avoided, it's not something I ever take any satisfaction in. It's what the documents say we have to do, and we didn't quite swear an oath to abide by the documents, but we said, hey, we're going to run this event fairly, and that means applying the rules that are laid out for these events the same way to everybody. Even though sometimes it feels like it might not be the most fair to you in this particular instance, if that's what the rules are, that's what the rules are, and fairness isn't always fair. Huh.
Mm-hmm. Another thing to keep in mind, that when you interact with judges, they are allowed to have all of the information. Okay. If they ask you what is on, you do not have to explain your notes to your opponent, but you do have to explain it to the judge. Now, if you'd like to explain it away from the table, sure. If your opponent cannot look at your hand, but that judge can, You are expected to answer all questions truthfully. Do not lie to a judge. That is also a problem. And
Mm-hmm. Capital P problem.
yeah, and I'm not gonna say like you've got to treat judges with respect, but I am gonna say, we're there. It's just a job. We're working here. Uh, you know, treating
A
us
lot
with
of us, this
respect.
isn't our main income either. We're going out of our way to go and try to be helpful.
Yeah, yeah.
Keep that in
It's
mind.
when you factor in travel costs and the hotel and stuff like that, we're often making less than minimum wage, sometimes a lot less than minimum wage, to
Yeah.
work these events. So while I'm not going to say you need to be respectful to judges, I am going to say you need to be respectful to judges. You know,
Yeah.
exact same word, different tone. Um, Things might not go your way, but ultimately we're trying to make things better for everyone. And sometimes if you're being a jerk, the thing that's best for everyone is to remove you from the event. Like
Yeah.
I
And it's not even necessarily against you itself. Like sometimes when we disqualify you from like the main event because you did a thing that falls under cheating, that doesn't mean you're a outright always cheater. That just means you did something that fell under that in this event. You can continue your weekend playing in other events at the same convention if you really want to. That is totally fine. It's just for the integrity of that
yeah.
tournament, you can't be in it anymore because you did a bad thing.
No, if you're aggressive or rude or mean, like we're there working. We want to be treated like people as well.
Yeah,
Like we're
please.
also participants in the event, and just like you shouldn't be allowed to say rude things to your opponent, we also don't want you saying rude things to judges. But again, we're going to try and help. We're going to try and fix the problems. Be straight with us, be honest with us, be completely answer our questions. Don't be evasive or hide anything. We're not trying to get you into trouble.
Yep.
Okay. And yeah, call us if you need us. Going back to if something feels off, have a question, and it could even be like, hey, maybe you had an interaction with a judge that seemed kind of weird too. Tell another judge, like,
Oh,
if a
yeah.
judge is
Not
being a
every judge
jerk,
is the same.
yeah, we don't got loyalty to those people. Oh, if there's a judge being kind of creepy, let us know and we'll take care of that also.
All right. So, next up, we're going to talk about something we actually recently spent an entire episode talking on. So, if you're interested in our super deep dive on it with a special guest, you can go back to episode 361 for our end of round episode. But here we just want to touch on a little bit of what end of round means for judges and why you need to be aware of it and how it might affect you in your game.
Or why we
So,
seem like jerks about end of round,
yeah,
potentially.
why do we come off a bit like a jerk when we're trying to get you to put in your match results?
This
Like,
is right after we talk about like, hey, we're not trying to be jerks, we're trying to be helpful, and then here's a case where we might come off as a little jerky.
right. But we're going to tell you why, because it's, again, not that we want to be jerks. That is not our goal here. Our goal is to get the event going as quickly as possible, to make sure that you're not sitting around waiting for something to happen that could be prevented. So every player has likely had a judge come around at some point or another and ask you, hey, have you, if you're like packing up your cards or you're sitting there going over your sideboard tech, or, you're breaking down how the game went and offering your opponent like back and forth on their decisions or whatever, a judge might come up and interrupt you and say, hey, y'all, have you submitted your results into Companion? Did you submit your results into Melee yet? And you'll be like, oh, judge, we just finished and all that. But it's like, at that point, what you're experiencing is you're having a pleasant conversation with your opponent who was a pleasant opponent and, just socializing. What you're not necessarily seeing is the fact that you are the second to last table that is still playing and we don't have your match result, meaning if that last table finishes, now we're just sitting here, everybody in the room is sitting here waiting for you to put in that match result. So we are going to proactively try to remind everybody, because Maybe you're having a pleasant conversation. Maybe you were so focused on running to the bathroom after your match that you forgot to submit your match result. And now you've just disappeared from your table. We can't find you. And we're calling your name over the loudspeaker because we need you to submit your match results. Because we need that. We cannot complete the tournament without knowing who won your match. So it may come off like we're breathing down your necks, or you'll have a judge maybe sit down on your match near the end of time. And like out of nowhere, just a wild judge appears next to you and just, sits there watching what you're doing. Might feel a little intimidating, might feel like they're just like hovering over you, whatever it might be. But really, we just want to be there so that if something goes wrong, you don't have to wait to call for us. We're just there and we can fix it and we can keep the game going and minimize any delays. That's it.
Yeah. The big thing is if players don't enter their results in right away, the likelihood of that result getting entered in kind of starts to go down the longer it is. And before the 50-minute mark, before the round is over, you can sit there and be talking to your opponent. You're on your time. Like if you're sitting there talking, judges aren't going to come up and pester you or anything like that. You're on your time. But once time is called and it's been a couple minutes, you're now on the tournament's time. And while it would be nice if when you lost, you had a few minutes, you're kind of crushed and you need a few moments to decompress, and the judges will try and give you that. But at the same time, we're also potentially holding up 20, 30, 700 people from being able to start the next round. So we've kind of got to weigh a little bit of how much we should pester you for a result versus how much time to give you. And that's just kind of one of the things is it's very, very important when your match is finished that the result gets entered in, because until that result gets entered in, we have to kind of operate under an assumption that it might not come in. So we got to be like, is it in yet? Is it in yet? Is it in yet? So that's just kind of a thing. If you could enter your result in immediately, that makes everybody's life better, and it makes the event turnover faster. If you've gone to one of these big events before, starting at about 3 minutes remaining in the round, you're going to start hearing calls for players to put their results in. And that's because those players, they've gone and disappeared. Like, we can't find them. And so now we're calling for search parties. we're getting the lanterns
Donner,
and the
search
dogs.
party of 2.
Right. Right. Okay.
And I mean, the other thing there is once you put in your match result, then you're back on your time. So that's why it's really important to just do that. As soon as you finish a match, don't even bother decideboarding yet. Just pull out your device, input your results, and then take as much time as you can to do whatever you want to, because then you're back on your time until we say pairings for round X are up. Please find your seats.
All right. Now, what is the last thing? That's number 11. So far, we've had deck lists. They're required and important. Don't forget to have them. We've had sleeves. Pay attention to their condition. We've had, hey, tardiness is a thing. You need to be on time for the start of round. Keep in mind your pace of play. There are no breaks. If you want to eat, close. Penalties, not so scary. Your opponent, maybe scary. Call for a judge if something feels off. Don't oopsie bribe folks. If you have a question about what you can offer your opponent, do that out of earshot to a judge. Like dry run with a judge. Know whether you're going to be using companion or melee, where you enter your results in. Judges, we try to be helpful. We're not going to bite, promise. End of round, please put your results in. And then the last one, what's this one?
The last one is you always have the right to appeal the decision or the ruling that a floor judge has given you at a tournament. So normally at a lot of these larger events, and this doesn't necessarily apply at the RCQ where you have just the one head judge and that's the only judge in the room. But if you have 2 judges at the event, if you have anything more than 1 judge, there is one of those judges at least that is designated as the head judge. Now, I say at least because sometimes for these really big ones where we have like 1,500 players, there might be 4 or 5 quote unquote head judges, or, one head judge and 4 appeals judges who all they do is what head judges are supposed to be doing, which is taking appeals.
And doing
And an appeal is just, and investigations, but that's not what we're talking about. So, but appeals. So let's say a floor judge comes over and they ruled that a interaction that you built your deck on, that you are 100% confident is correct, does not work the way you expect it to. Now, this judge has been trained. They do have some amount of skills. They were hired for a reason. Odds are there's a reason they're saying this. However, you absolutely can disagree with the judge. It is not saying that that judge is stupid or that they're just outright wrong. Maybe something else is informing them that it should work a different way and they might just be mixing things up. Whatever it is, you always have the right to appeal the ruling. Now, typically that's going to be to the head judge or appeals judge. It's whoever is the highest authority in the room, the person who is in charge of the event. And they will hear you out. They will ask you what was ruled. They'll ask you for why you appealed. And then they might overturn that floor judge's decision. Or they might not. It all depends on what the scenario is. But don't ever think that you cannot get a second opinion on a ruling that you feel might be outright
hang
wrong.
on. I'm going to contradict you right there.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. Yeah. All right. So what we talk about players having a right to appeal. What that means is you have the right to have your case heard by the most authoritative judge in the room, the head judge or one of the appeals judges, who are basically like they're imbued with the power of the head judge.
Right.
So it is not a right to a second opinion. Okay, and I want to clarify that.
You are correct there.
In the general case, when a floor judge makes a ruling, the floor judge is not the head judge. So you can say, I would like to appeal. Now, at an RCQ, okay, at your local store, the head judge is probably very likely the only judge. Okay, there is no one to appeal to, and you are getting your case heard by the most authoritative judge in the room, the head judge. So that doesn't mean you can't say, like, at your RCQ, Judge, are you sure that's the way it works? Can you check? Or can you show me the ruling? Or something along those lines. That's fine as long as it's respectful. Again, I don't say, you need to respect judges. And, don't be a jerk. Just say, like, are you sure? Can you show me the rule? Or something along those lines. That's fine. But what if the head judge takes the call and you're like, I want to appeal?
Yep. Not really an opportunity there.
Yeah, right. You do not have a right to a second opinion. Now, the judge might, if it's potentially contentious, or maybe it's a thing that they're not 100% on, they're just 99.9%, they'll go ask someone else. Or if it's open and shut, like you were 5 minutes late, it's a game loss, and and the player wants to appeal. No, I'm head judge. This is the ruling. There is no second opinion to you were clearly 5 minutes late. Like there is no facts in dispute.
Correct.
Right. So, but you can appeal. So if you get a ruling and you don't agree with it, then you have the right to appeal. I do want to stress, sometimes players treat this as, I'm going to spin the wheel again. Like, I didn't get the answer I wanted, so I'm going to spin the wheel with the head judge and see if they give me a different answer. All right. It's kind of hard to tell the difference. And we're not going to police or hold a player to a different standard because we think they're doing that. But again, you're kind of just wasting time if you're just, like, I'm gonna treat this ruling like a random number generator and hopefully I get a better random number out of this. Don't do that.
Yeah, and that's why I emphasize the fact that the judge who took your initial call is not just necessarily a rando who just appeared out of nowhere and tried to tell you that islands tap for black mana. It's not typically the case. However, there are certain interactions that can go over certain judges' heads. You might be mistaken. You might be thinking of one card and not have read the other card as closely. Judges are human. We try to be helpful. We do everything we can to be a positive impact on an event. And sometimes we get things wrong. We're human, and that happens. But you do have the right to appeal to the highest authority to just get 100% confidence that the most authoritative judge has heard what you are looking to accomplish and is giving you the authoritative answer. Because ultimately, the head judge is the authority. What they say goes.
Yep. And they say islands tap for black.
In which case, then there you go.
Yep. Oh, well. Okay, so that is the 12 things that we as judges want to make sure that you know as a player who is heading for your first Comp REL event. I realize that this podcast was about an hour. It's a lot of information. And believe us, we love to talk about things and little minutiae.
Could have been way worse.
Right. And just one more thing. And just one more thing you to death. So we tried to keep this tight. We may have succeeded. Probably not. But again, Comp REL events are great. They're fun. Check them out.
It's a blast.
They are. They are completely different, and they're not necessarily something to be intimidated. There's this whole structure and rules, but that's mostly for us to figure out. If you just bring your deck list, bring your sleeves, and don't be sketchy, everything's fine. Get out there and play. All right.
So, as Charles isn't here, this is normally his bit, but I think I'll pick it up and run with it. That's our episode. Now, not 100% what we're going to be doing on the next show. Odds are it'll be a release notes episode. But hey, that's what we do. Until then, you can send us an email at judgecast@gmail.com, like us on Facebook, or follow us on Blue Sky at judgecast.bsky.social, and on Twitter at JudgeCast. Don't forget to check out our show notes for those links and more, including our YouTube channel where you can find this podcast and our L1 Essentials series if you're interested in joining the ranks of judges at the L1 level. While you're at it, hop onto our Discord server for judges new and old, fans, and anyone who supports the judging community. I'm Marcos Sanchez, and I keep it fair.
I'm Bryan Perlman, and I keep it fun. See, this is what happens when Charles isn't here. It throws off my whole rhythm.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
I'm Charles Feather, and I keep it fair. I'm Marcos Sanchez, and I keep it fun.
And I'm Bryan Perlman, and I keep it confused? That was just you pretending to be Charles.